So first of all, looks like there is not many companies in 10 to 15 million bracket in India. I think we all know India still is an early stage in terms of SaaS and SaaS ecosystem, right? So I'm sure 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 is a lot more filled out. As I get into this topic, I'll give a little bit of context about myself and the company that I work, because most of the discussion and business development in Yellow. But for last 3 years, I pretty much set up the entire post-sales teams, delivery, customer success, support. Last 1.5 years, I'm running product line, which is responsible for 40% of revenue, product partnership, and monetization, right? One of the things that I kind of follow every day is two main things. One is with my teams, whatever I say, empathy and integrity. So most of the thinkings are all centered around that. And as I get to this Murphy's thing, I'll give you a context and why I'm going to talk about the pleasure of working through Indian customers and all the cash flow related problems associated with that, right? But now more than 1,000 customers, globally present. More importantly, in each region, we have taken a hyper-regional approach, right? We want to be very, very region-centric. So for Indonesia, we would want Indonesians to be part of our company. If you're in US, we want Americans who are part of the company. So is Middle East. So that's what we have built, and our team is pretty much distributed. I'm based out of Abu Dhabi. Co-founders are based out of US and some in Abu Dhabi. So it's a highly distributed team, like most of you guys would be in the environment that you are operating. Now the topic. One thing is very clear, and if you are, I don't know how many of you guys have crossed $10 million, and it's a $5 million in revenue, ARR. There are odds of failures are very, very high, right? So 0 to 1, of course, is very tough. 1 to 5, it's equally tough, but life doesn't get easier. Life is actually pretty tough because that's when you're going to hit the bigger league. And how many of you have heard about Murphy's Law? Yeah, pretty much everyone, right? And you would only know this first field. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. Do you know any other statement beyond this? Yeah, well, let's look into some other things that he is talking about, right? He says that left to themselves, things will go bad to worse. Second, he says, if there's a possibility of several things going wrong, the one that will go wrong is the one that will cause the maximum damage. He also says, nature always sides on the side of like things getting wrong. And finally, if everything seems to be going well, which is when you hit the 5 million, 6 million, but there should be some flaw. If you look into all of these things, what it essentially says that by design things will go bad, but if you're cognizant, you can of course do and take some steps and correct it. So the whole context of this session is going to be giving that perspective of looking at the blind spot that we develop as we hit the 5 million, 10 million stage, which can typically prevent us from growth. But what is that we can do as a founder, as an operator, to help overcome is what we'll see. First and foremost is around sales. Wins are being like celebrated and all those things, right? And I think I've seen founders and CEOs getting too much into it and a little too much into focusing on just sales, just closing, just close, right? I mean, all this promotion that happens on sales it's fair. I think it's a tough job, they do it. But we all should remember who pays the money, right? Ultimately, it's not investors. I mean, they pay it for certain distance, but it's all customers. It's all about customers which matters. So a founding team member or a senior leadership absolutely being obsessed about customers' needs and the product, not just on what we sell, right? And that's very important. Second is seeking the truth. A lot of the time as we grow, truth just gets into the carpet. Truth around product usage, truth around where does your product stand vis-a-vis a competition, because competitions are also not standing still. They're moving very fast. Truth about your own customers' wants and needs, right? And again, it's very easy to cover this with metrics, or your direct reportees will have different versions of truth, right? But as a senior leader, as a founder, it's even more important to be grounded to the reality, not just get taken away by funding rounds and sales closures and other stuff. This is super, super important. Second is, again, this is a big issue, big topic. in terms of value for services. And Yellow, we have about 160 guys in a professional services organization. Right? And I used to work in UiPath before. Uh, Massive professional services organization. They make about 10 to 15% of their revenue from professional services, right? But there is this whole conundrum around, are we a software company or are we a services company? I think it's really a nonsensical debate, right? Because ultimately we are a company where we have to generate revenue. That is what it is. We are adding some value to someone and we are generating revenue, right? So I think we need to get out of this mindset of software versus services. Helps in faster deployment. When I say services, it includes professional service, customer success, and support, all of the post-sales organization, right? So you need to be very clear how and what is the value addition of this particular team is in the firm. Otherwise, it's getting lost, and that leads to finding the right leader as well. You get a lame leader, and that guy is an S-man, and he gets trampled by the sales team, he gets trampled with the product team, and doesn't really add any value. And ultimately what happens is that part of organization might lag, or you will see that that part of the organization is not shining in front of customers. And finally, people in that organization don't want to exist, right? And what it all happens is, without a proper post-sales organization, a firm cannot grow, customers cannot be successful. So as a founder, as an operator, seriously urge to have a very good view around what is the value that a professional services team, customer success support team are having. Try to monetize it, demand and command for value, and try to move to premium support as soon as possible. Then measuring for insights over reporting. By the time you hit 5 million, 10 million, you might have CFO if you are a rich company. But of course, you will have a VP finance or somebody who is good in reporting. And you listen to SaaSter, SaaScon, SaaSboomi, all metrics as everybody has put, right? I think anybody can look into those sessions and then see what are the metrics that matters. But I think the key is to try to move from reporting metrics which are reported and post facto, to metrics that can tell you what is going to happen. So I come from strategy consulting world, we call as a lead metrics and lag metrics. So all of us, especially finance organization, focuses on a lag metric. But as an operator, as a founder, all of us have to focus on lead metrics that gives you insights on what's going to happen in quarters to come. Let's look into some of them, right? Sales metric. It's not ARR growth which matters. I think it's incidental. Most important thing is how much of your team members are achieving the quota, right? And that defines whether your product is good, that defines whether people want to work with you, that defines whether as a company, can you add more sellers or not, right? If you consistently have more for people not hitting the quota, right? I mean, if you're doing only 30% average quota, I think you have to scale down the team, or a product is not working, your ICP is wrong. There's a lot of things that can be wrong, right? So that's, I would pay close attention to the quota attainment. Second is health score versus NRR. We got Anil, so Anil is from Gainsight, and we worked with them to build. Anil and my friend Abhilash, who implemented Gainsight in Yellow, we kind of built out a health score, and it has evolved. Why I wanted to highlight is NRR is again a touted metric. It's a very good metric, but again it's a post factor, right? What is a lead metric is all around health score, and health score depends upon each company. In our case, we have gone to a fairly advanced stage where we are building health score by cohorts. So cohorts could be enterprise segment, mixed segment, could be by geography, could be anything. And these are combination of metrics around, I don't need to get into depth, but essentially metrics that matters to tell whether the customer is finding value, is it going to stick with you or not stick with you. So go beyond NRR, look for health score. Within health score, don't know, because you are 10 million, you're not 5 million or 1 million. Go micro segments and try and see how do you build unique health scores for each segment which matters. Product usage versus power usage, right? So again, we are having a discussion with Anil in the morning that product managers are too busy with their mix panels and other data that are available, right? If you ask my product manager, how are we doing, he will show like 50 metrics and all colorful. Nowadays there is this pink color, so I think that's what Mixpanel uses. Very beautiful metrics, and it's very difficult to know whether things are working good or not. It will always work well as per PM, because he finds one metric which is always good. But he will not be able to identify what are that one or two metric which matters, and then says that whether the thing that you have launched is making sense, or the customer kind of using the right set of things that's making some difference, or even if you're doing some experiments, or is it working or not working. So really asking the tight question to PMs. In fact, the question that I asked to PM is largely around revenue these days, but even the if you look into the lead metric is all around finding those critical power metrics or critical power features which make sense, right? And the finance side, it's all EBITDA versus cash flow. So again, EBITDA, we come from India market, and we struggle this quite a bit to collect money, right? And SaaS world, it gets little bit easier to model things out and look good on a P&L side, but your cash statement doesn't add up to the doesn't look good. So I think as you scale, and you all know capital is becoming very scarce, you have to keep a very keen eye on cash flow. Everybody keeps an eye on cash flow when it really burns, when it really hurts. But I think, again, you need to start looking at it way ahead of the cycle. And finally, from people perspective, which is HR, it's not HR function, it's mostly a founding team and a CX function. It's not about number of people whom we added. We are in India, so we like to put people and add more people. True, it's good as well, we're giving employment. But it's very important that we kind of look for metrics which matters, which is revenue per employee. Way back, I used to work in Accenture, and Accenture does, can you take a guess how much Accenture's average revenue per employee will be? Per year? Yeah. No, 220, 230K. Yeah, services company can command that much. Now you put an Accenture resource, strategy consulting resource, he gets $1,000 per day for the company, right? McKinsey might get $2,000. What we are sitting in SaaS world, we are talking about 30K, 40K, right? And we're adding people and busy adding more people. So we are worse than the software companies actually, services company actually. But we want to still hire people. But it has a very wrong impact, not just on the financial outcomes, but I think it have a very wrong impact on the employee's experience, because you would not be able to give that kind of quality experience within the company if you are only making 50, 60K revenue per employee, right? So you might really want to think about it. I don't think any HR has this conversation with the manager, with the CEOs. CFO will have when the board pushes him back. But I think this is a conversation, even if you're a manager, you need to ask this question to our CEO, why should we need to hire? Why do we need to hire? We don't need to hire. We just need to build better product which can sell, which can make more revenue for the company. And finally, very important is like packaging, pricing, and everything around it, right? So there's a lot of theory around it, but let me simplify this. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
To sell that particular product?
Yeah, you definitely need to sell. What I was getting to is a model of making more money or model of making higher revenue per employee. Till you have got a sense of that, right? Suppose you are making only 30K, 40K revenue per employee. You don't need to add more people. Can you make that 40K to 80K with same set of people? Can you get your sales team hit quotas more, right? Can your product managers deliver product which is of higher value, or same team and more revenue? So look into all sorts of metrics, starting with sales teams quota. Second, looking into your customer success and support teams and being more efficient. Third is adding that engineering and product capacity only when it matters. That I'll cover that topic as well, because in this pricing thing, because a lot of time what happens is product and engineering team will keep on adding features and they will talk about ROI later, right? You add more people to talk about ROI. Actually, you have to reverse it and front-end it. Exactly what we will talk here. The third thing is like, how do you look backward? So you look into the ROI that you're going to get, then you back work on the investments that you want to invest on the product team. Rather than saying that, hey, I'm building a product team, an engineering team, you think, no, you add more people and things will grow. And that's where things get mistake or Murphy will catch up. Did I answer?
It was our next thing, because I was thinking, at the end of the day, if you don't have people to drive that particular exercise,
Yeah.
how you will generate the ROI, be it with usage of the existing resources or upskilling them. That was
Usage of existing resource only, or you have to rotate the people out and bring in higher value talent rather than adding more bodies. On the packaging and pricing science, and this is a big learning, and you walk through this, is it's a easier problem in certain case, it's a hard problem, right? Most of the world is moving towards subscription and pay as you go model. I think we are all knowing that. 2-3 things happens is your product team kind of building a feature. Like in our case, I'll tell you, we had a same product which was sold to a customer who would pay $10-15K and somebody who would pay $300-400. Only difference was they will be consuming differently in terms of number of conversations. So that was it's like a snowflake kind of model where you kind of pay for the computer, Amazon kind of model, right? But there is an interesting thing they had in the middle, which is all the consumption was converting into some sort of credit, right? And some higher value feature would mean higher credits, lower value feature means lower credits, and then you will have a pricing or the cost accordingly. But what happened is we didn't do that. We only had consumptions democratically wherever we did, we were actually paying, right? So we kind of jumped that thing and we had to do a lot of rework around the whole thing. So currently we've got some model where we are essentially having a combination of consumption plus feature to do it. But you'll have to figure out what is the right pricing model, because the pricing levers are exceptional. You can hit your sales target very fast. You can hit your NRR targets consistently. And then you can also have a very efficient R&D teams. But specifically, it is all to make your customers win, right? So again, chat in the morning, your CFO is listing down, or any of your customer CFO is listing down all the tools that his company is subscribing to. Any tool which is not delivering ROI, he just blindly kind of shut it down. It's the only thing. Doesn't want to talk. Yeah, don't shy away from the value conversation. Finally, reverse work the ROI to the investment. Again, this is a problem. I said, right? Engineering and product team tend to get very big very quickly, and they don't measure themselves with revenue, right? The revenue function is sitting somewhere else. Product and engineering team is sitting somewhere else, and they're building features. They'll release features. That's what they are paid for also. So, but if you hold your product and engineering team responsible for features they're building, not just adoption, but for revenue, and what is the ROI that is going up generating for your customers, you will have a much leaner product team, product engineering team, very focused features which are released, and very clearly value demonstrated for you, your customers and your teams as well. And then the whole thing around it, when you become 10 million, people talk about multiple things around multiple SaaS, right? So if you're offering adjacent products that you kind of do, I think the simple way to look into is a simple SaaS world is gone, in the sense that you have a point product only can give you point impact. So please that. So that's not going to help you to grow very fast. The world is moving towards more compound SaaS. When I say more compound SaaS, it means that customer wants to do an end-to-end value or a process out of working with you. In consulting services world, we used to call single neck to choke, right? So if you are offering HR services, you would want to be the one guy who could do everything. Like good example is Rippling. How many of you guys know Rippling? Yeah, most know, right? They started only 2017 or 2018. In that 2017, 2018, they're $11 billion company doing things in HRMS space only. Sounds a little boring space, but they're already close to $1 billion in the revenue. And the way they have done is they've taken and integrated solutions together and delivered to the customer. They're taking on work days, they're taking on success factors, they're not taking on people on the other end like Bamboo and Darwin boxes. So they have come up with such a compelling solution that they only can truly do it. And they've done it by taking on complex problems and doing it themselves. A lot of them by software, but also topping it up with services. So ultimately customer needs a single neck to choke. He's not buying a software, right? He's buying a end-to-end value. Second is innovation stops. It's very easy to, not innovate. Even at 10 million people start developing lot of inertia, right? And and as a founder and as a CEO, if you're there, it's very easy to miss that out. So it is really important to keep pushing your team to innovate, not just build new features, but build, re-architect the old features better, partner with the folks in the market. That leads to the third point. We all get a WhatsApp message, we all get SMS message. They're not very targeted, right? But as a company, we don't have capability on segmentation and targeting as thing. I mean, can we build it? Yeah, we can build it, but we'll take 1 more year to build it. But can we partner is? Yes, we can partner and try to drive that innovation and outcomes for customers. I think that is critical thing that we all need to hire. It's not like I only build and I only serve. We could also partner with the people in the ecosystem and serve. I think that's something that I would want folks to look into. Then there are a lot of things on the numbers. I don't want to beat everything to death, but just a simple example, right? If you could do things correctly, and this is a graph. On x-axis you got growth rate, year-on-year growth rate, and you got on y-axis is your burn rate, right? If you focus on NRR, and the green one shows NRR of a company which is at 108%. And red one shows of a company with a burn NRR of just 100, just retaining the same base. So having a small tweak on the NRR outcomes that you can get out of your customer can have a phenomenal outcome in terms of reduction in your, so this is a reduction in the cash burn that you would want, right? Similarly, there are metrics that are there in the businesses. If you are optimized for that, your cash burn will be saved. And it's all a question of SaaS, question of metrics only mostly. But you cannot optimize for one metric and expect everything else to go, because if you touch one thing, other thing will get impacted for sure. So you'll have to see what metrics you want to optimize. But that brings to the end of my discussion. Just to summarize, index for growth, understand the value of services, measure for insights, not for reporting, package and value, package and price to the value, not for how much you can part a customer, right? And then build compound SaaS, solve for tough problems that only you can solve uniquely. Thanks guys, that's my talk.
Actually, he shared lots of interesting insights. I think he wants to see the last slide.
So I think when you talk about Indian SaaS companies and partnership, they will typically talk about partnering with Google or Microsoft or AWS, right? So who are tech partners? I partner with AWS. They might be using their cloud services, right? But there, as I told, there are solutions. Like for example, in our case, 2 areas that I'm looking at particularly. One is the whole recommendation engine, because we don't have that. Second is social channels. Again, Yellow is a company where we have conversations. Like a chatbot company, we have conversations, right? And one of the places that people are all having conversations these days are on TikTok. Those are channels which are social and high volume. Now, who are very good in this? The companies in management, and then see if there are certain conversations in Twitter or X or Y or Z not going very well. And they will monitor, and they have built very super solid platform to manage this high volume, multi-country, multi-channel data. Now for us to build is going to take time. What we are trying to do with one of the companies is essentially try and see if we can plug those social channel into Yellow, and then we can do an automated response. They can't do automated response. We are good in responding to it once it comes, but we are not that good in handling social channels, because it is a complexity of data, it's a complexity of channels. Like for example, Musk came and he said $5,000 if you want to listen into Twitter per account, right? So things like this keeps on happening in these channels, which we can't do. So we partner with them. And I think those opportunities are there in the market.
When you go to your management and probably ask for a new set of resources on the services side, how are you justifying that investment to your management?
Yeah, in services there are three teams, right? It's professional services, economics is pretty much established, right? In terms of you would have budget to retain. So for example, if $100 is for that as part of your P&L. Second is what incremental investment can I make in CS which can give me incremental NRR, right? So these are two things you have to split and kind of retain. And then when I say retention of 100, so it also has support, also has some sort of money. So customer success and support together you can do it. And then what I'll make an investment that can get me more returns, and how do you charge for it? There are multiple models people charge for it, right? There's a paid customer success model which is out there. Large enterprises have a premium support. Premium support is a big problem and a big market. In fact, there's a company called Support Logic whose only ICP is software companies offering premium support, right? And then they are kind of bringing that visibility and value towards it. So you'll have to break your current cost structures, try and see what is doing what, whether it is to get you the 100% retention, or is it going to get you extra money? Is it going to be a fund as part of your thing? Can you ask a CS support? So some customers pay for CS support. Especially in US, you can charge, not in India, but you can charge. Just that we don't ask for it properly. That's a way to work it out. Whether you ask a CFO or whether you ask a customer, it's a choice. If you ask a CFO, then he can come and say no anytime.
Sure. And just to follow up on that, the way you measure your team's CS function KPIs other than NRR, anything else that you measure them on?
CSAT is a number one thing, right? Second is case studies, referenceable case studies that they can create. And now we are also creating a lot of kind of events and engagements that customers could come. I think that's a whole field of customer advocacy, customer engagement in its own thing. But most important lag metric is NRR and CSAT. The lead metrics is everything to do with product adoption, the kind of number of touch points you have had, the kind of advocacy things that we can do, case studies that we can generate, and all those things.
Thank you.
Everything to do with expansion of use cases. So we are in a bot, and bot is like a baby. It will have certain skills, but there are 100 more skills that can be added. So a bot which is not added with more skills is pretty much like going to die. So we'll have a platform to build things by themselves, not by our professional services team. And then in Indian context, DSOs and other things are also kind of out there. And then if it's closer to the kind of renewal date, of course, we kind of flag it off. These are the things which standard, right? Then there is other hidden things. There is this famous thing in Atlassian. There is one open bug for like I think 10 years or something like that, that they have not closed it. There's feature request. So what we have seen is a lot of customers, nicely adopting customers, suddenly churn because they would have requested some feature, and it may not be a big feature, but for him it may be most important thing, but he will churn. So there are some, not a bug, but a feature request come from customer, and we have not solved it for a long time. That's a super heavy red flag, because these days cost of switching is very less, even in enterprise place. So we need to build this composite thing. For example, in Indonesia and Asia market, this feature request, if you're not building, is a big red flag. In US, it's not that much big. They are okay with it as long as some sort of support is kind of coming through. They are very sensitive if your SLAs are down. In India, your SLA is down 10 times also, nobody will go out. They'll say, they'll shout, they'll not go. Yeah. I think that we should beat it in multiple ways. One is to create brand. For example, Yellow, we have 15 out of 27 general insurance. I think first 2-3 insurers we struggle, still struggling with them. But rest of the customers we have doing with a very good margin business. So creating a brand, there's nothing like that. It works in every market. It works in India also. But as a startup, it's a struggle. It's a very big struggle that initial deals are going to get beaten. There's a lot of competition. There's in-house teams. But that's a big way to solve. Second way to solve this is if you have partners. Whatever said and done. Right? For example, we work with SAP. SAP codes 4 times more than what they would code, what we would code ourselves. First, we are shy of asking. Second, customers won't pay us. When SAP is bundling our solution along with them, it's like easy. So you'll have to find those things which will work, but it is a tough market. And in spite of all of these things, you are going to have DSO problems, right? So that's not going to go away. And you cannot enforce late payments and all those things. So you need a tough AR team, which kind of work. Like we get bills from Meta. Meta is one of our partners. They just switch off the service.
Where do you draw a line? Because there will be churn, there will be natural churn, there will be product-related churn. How do you think about that as an organization? And
churn is super important. In fact, as you hit 10 million, you will have churn. And those are good churns. They sell us something. We acquired 350 customers. Just like that, SMB customers. I don't know, 10% of them are in the company now. Right? So you would tend to acquire in the early stage a lot of non-ICP customers. By design, you will acquire it. And they will churn. And it is good because your product is evolved. Your segment, say for example, you would have, in our case, we were moving more enterprise, so we are not able to serve SMB. It could be a case where people are more SMB oriented, where enterprise customers might churn. Right? So your GRR by segment is very important. So for example, our SMB segment GRR could be 73-74%. Our enterprise customers GRR, gross retention rate, is 95-96%. Right? So you will, by 10 million, you will know which customers you can serve, not serve. Initially, I shaved my head, but a lot of hair also fell, just to trying to answer why customer churned and other things. So that's a problem that you will have to deal with. But being very comfortable with churn is very important. Yeah. Thanks you. Thank you.
Great session. Thank you so much.